Well, hi everyone. My name's Maren Merworth. I'm the founder and CEO of Neram. These are my business partners, John Anthony DiTullio and Antonella Paternostro. Neram is a sustainable clothing brand that utilizes textile waste, like landfill textiles, post-consumer textiles, and donations to create high-end fashion products. Neram was started around 2020 during the coronavirus pandemic, where myself, like I'm sure a lot of other people in this room, had way too much time on my hands. So I started going through my closet rather optimistically, trying to find some clothes I wanted to wear when the world opened back up. And I found that a lot of the things in my closet I didn't wear anymore, and frankly probably wouldn't wear again. So I started recreating them into things that I would wear. And that led me to take a pair of denim jeans and make it into a handbag, which I posted on social media, and a lot of people caught on to it. And they asked me if they could donate their jeans so that I could do the same for them. So I thought there was a business idea here, and I started doing research. That's when I found that over 14 million tons of textile waste get dumped into landfills every year. And as somebody that donates clothing myself, I wanted to know my personal footprint within this problem. That's when I found out that the average American discards 82 pounds of clothing every year. And according to the EPA, 85% of textiles are not properly recycled, being dumped into landfills or burnt, creating CO2 emissions that get released into the atmosphere. That's when Neram was formed, a recycling of my own name, putting it backwards, where we take that textile waste and we create it into new products for modern consumers. Specifically, we're focusing on denim, where we reclaim it and reproduce it into denim handbags. We focused on denim first because it's one of the top polluting materials within the industry, from production to post-consumer, consuming 999 gallons of fresh water. And in terms of scaling, the way that we do this is we have cut and sew patterning to where we can standardize our handbags regardless of the quality of the denim we receive.
We're partnering with Goodwill San Antonio and Miller Waste Mills Incorporated. Goodwill, a nonprofit that specializes in taking clothing donations and selling them at low cost to fund their community outreach projects. They end up having a lot of unsold goods as well and don't want those to end up in landfills. So what they do is they bundle them up, put them in barrels, and sell them wholesale to vendors. These vendors use them for a variety of reasons, for industrial rags up to insulation. Neram will purchase these barrels, take the denim material, put it into our handbag product line, and take the non-denim material, move it over to Miller Waste Mills to have it shredded down into its raw material, into the fibers that can be rewoven into fabric and then used for additional garments such as knitwear, one of Neram's future product lines.
So regarding our industry, we operate within the wider apparel and fashion market, which is currently worth $1.5 trillion. More specifically, we are in the ethical fashion market, which is growing at around a 12% compound annual growth rate and is currently worth $6.4 billion. Regarding our target market, Gen Z fashion buyers currently dispose of $143 billion in spending power. And what we have found is that around 70% of consumers actually favor sustainability when making purchasing decisions. And this is why they are willing to pay from 10 up to 20% premiums on the products that favor sustainability. However, most of consumers are faced with a dilemma. And this is choosing with the sustainable option or the option of their choice, whether that be for pricing or for fashion purposes. But Neram provides the answer to this dilemma. So of course we have competitors, which can be commonly thought of as the bigger fashion industry manufacturers, such as H&M, Zara, Levi's, or Stella McCartney. In the recent years, these companies have been greenwashing, which means using labels such as green or organic or ethically sourced in order to give consumers the perception that they're actually doing something for the environment or changing their production processes. However, when taking a second look, we find that these tags actually have no impact in the way that they produce clothes, and they end up creating the same amount of waste and CO2 emissions into the environment. And that's where Neram comes in.
Neram differentiates itself from these sustainably claiming companies by being a company maintaining a focus on reclamation. Where these companies put capital into producing sustainable labels, Neram takes the waste that they produce in those processes to make new products.
Freitag is someone we consider a real comparable competitor. a Swiss brand that takes old plastic tarps and revitalizes it into handbags, satchels, backpacks, and wallets. Freitag is proof that the business model works, as they've been able to achieve $32 million in yearly revenue, and also demonstrates that there is demand for sustainably recycled goods. Moving on to our pricing and strategy, we have two: our e-commerce via our website, where we sell direct to consumer, as well as our wholesale business geared towards retailers. For this example, I'll take the top-of-the-line handbag, which sells for $250 on our website and produces roughly a 370% margin, as it costs us $66 to produce today without scale, and that's landed. We would sell that same bag for $150 to retailers in bulk, which allow them to have a 66% markup without worrying that we'll undercut them on our website. That meets and exceeds industry expectations. Also, for the judges, I'd like to understand that when referencing the income statement and our financial projections, we use our wholesale unit per price to ensure that we have conservative projections.
Now, looking forward, from March to August of 2022, we are going to up our orders to a higher quantity in order to drop our cost per unit. And we're going to begin mass production. For the remainder of 2022, we're building retail partnerships, we're developing our website, and we're forming marketing campaigns to grow our e-commerce sales. 2023 is all about scale and reinvesting our revenue back into our product lines. And 2024, we're growing our management team, and we're also investing in recycling machinery so we own our means of production given its unique processes. We're asking for a $40,000 investment, 60% of which will go towards product development and manufacturing, 20% of which will go towards website development to grow our SEO and keyword search for our consumers, and the remainder 20% is broken up between Instagram marketing campaigns to grow our Instagram shop, as well as TikTok ads and Pinterest ads to rank in our Gen Z consumers, as that's where they're shopping.
A $40,000 investment would do a lot for this company. From a financial perspective, we're projected to reach just under $600,000 in revenue by 2024. With this investment, that number jumps up and exceeds $1 million in that same time frame.
But more importantly, a $40,000 investment will help Neram reclaim over 30,000 pounds of textile waste from ending up in landfills by 2024. That's taking textiles out of the landfills and putting them back into the hands of consumers. Thank you.
Congratulations, Neram. Judges, the floor is yours for any questions.
I have a question. Where's your manufacturing going to be where? Have you already identified some manufacturing partners?
We have a few partners. We have some local to Texas because we're from San Antonio, and then we also have a few in LA. We're working with people that like to do unique projects like this and pride themselves in that. We're currently comparing price ranges and what fits best for us, though, so we don't have a single manufacturer at the moment.
But with this investment, we are going to have to requote with all of our manufacturers because, Jay, if you can help me out with the specific pricing of what they gave us, but with a much bigger order, our cost per unit comes down by a very large percentage.
For example, that top-of-the-line handbag, right now the current manufacturer that we were planning to use, they charge $35 a unit, but that is for 75 bags of that specific quantity. If we jump up to 150, that jumps down to 30 and to 25 very quickly.
It's such a wonderful concept. Congratulations. It's very exciting. I'm curious, with the demand profile, how do you see the competition for goods from Goodwill evolving over time once you begin to create a very special business? Are you going to be competing with others for that relatively free product?
That's a good question. So if that happens with Goodwill's partnership with us, we have plans to reach out to different retailers whose dead stock never reaches the retail floor, and they also sell product for low cost. So there's a lot of options if Goodwill starts to become a saturated area for us.
And I think as well to point out, denim is just the start. There's many different materials such as khaki, leather from old seats that we plan to utilize, and Goodwill can't supply all of those, so we would go and find some new supplies for those different projects.
I think something else important to point out to your point is we've talked about a lot of fashion manufacturers having supply chain shortages, and that's a problem that I don't think we'll ever run into because, like we mentioned before, there's 14 million tons of landfills in the world. So what we have to do is just go out and get those materials that nobody wants, because there's always going to be that waste there.
This is great. Thank you. And a real quick follow-up. You had mentioned earlier that you kind of had a second vision of new products you were going to do. Can you talk a little bit about that and where you see this going after handbags?
Yeah, so in terms of handbags, I think we're going to expand our material usage as well as the quality of our products, because what you're looking at on Antonella and I are just prototypes, so the quality is going to increase. And I know John Anthony mentioned knitwear. With Miller Waste Mills, we're able to break down the materials into a fiber and then respin them into threads that can be knit. And also you can respin those threads even smaller to make materials like the ones that we have on. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at your website. It's a really nice website. Great job. So you were already selling on your website, right?
Yes.
Can you share like what are your projections just purely on your website for this year?
Yeah, so, well, yeah, you could actually go to the income statement.
A little far off, sorry.
And so in 2021, we did a few handbag sales, but that was really just generating the prototypes, and so we did around $2,000 in profit. This year, with just the inventory that we have on deck today, we should be exceeding around $3,000 to $5,000.
Got it. Just have a recommendation for you, because you do have the direct-to-consumer and the wholesale model.
Mm-hmm.
I think your business model in the short term, I think is very suited for your TikTok, Instagram, e-commerce strategy. Even consider having presence on Amazon.
Yeah.
Maybe don't put everything on Amazon, but have brand presence on Amazon. And just focus on that, because you have high margin, especially early on. Wholesale is a completely different animal. So take your time before you really get into, preferably maybe find a strategic wholesale partner to start with, but just keep doing what you're doing on e-commerce.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up on that question. So you talked about the importance of scaling the company. So, what do you see as some of the pitfalls that you all might encounter as far as trying to scale up and build this up?
Thank you for the question. So, of course, one big thing that we've run into is a manufacturer is used to having a piece of fabric, laying it out, and cutting through that. But with us, they're getting jeans that they're cutting through. And so a way that we found to overcome this obstacle is for every bag prototype that we develop, we have certain specifications for the jeans. So once we receive the jeans from Goodwill, we separate them into categories, and we put, let's say, bag A into production. And so we take those jeans. Our manufacturers have machinery that are able to cut through several layers of jean. And then those bags get sent to sewing and patterning, and then the next line of bag comes in. And how that works is, I don't know if you remember the slide where the jean, we develop specific stencils for each bag prototype. And so the machine just cuts the stencil, and then that goes off to sewing, and that's how we standardize.
And the materials that are left over that aren't usable for handbag production will go to places like Miller Waste Mills to be made into something else.
So I think, to make it concise, I think quality is going to be one of the major pitfalls, and that's why we're looking at multiple manufacturers to find the right one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there are a lot of competitors in this space, whether it's Rare Farm making billboards into tote bags, whether it's other companies that are upcycling clothing. How do you see yourselves differentiated in this very crowded space? And how do you plan to overcome that, all the different options that are out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been talking about this as well, because we got asked some questions yesterday. Can't Levi's just do the same thing you're doing? I think it's important to note that when you're first to market on things like this, you have brand credibility, just the same way that luxury brands like Gucci or Louis Vuitton they rake in customers from their brand credibility. So from being first to market on some things like this, I think that customers will just view us as an important mission that they want to be a part of.
we also really plan to make the customer feel that they are making a difference, right? We're giving the opportunity for consumers to feel like they have those 2 pounds on their shoulder that would have ended up in landfills. And so that is one of our competitive advantages.
I like that. Take it to the next level. Maybe have, when a customer buys a product, give them the option to ship back their unused denims. Maybe figure out how to put in your margins kind of a prepaid shipping in a box and have them be even more engaged.
We've been toying with ideas
Yeah.
like that.
Thank you. That's a great idea. But to add to your point, I think something really important to point out is the fashion industry is a 1.5 trillion industry, but the ethical fashion industry is only 6.4 billion. This is around 2 or 3%. And so I think the fashion industry as a whole is saturated, but the ethical fashion industry is not saturated at all and has a very large potential for growth, especially because that's where the world is headed. Sustainability, environmentally friendly products. And so I think that we have a lot of potential to grow in that. And like Maren said, if we get this investment and we're able to scale and mass product and kind of pioneer in the sector, I think that's going to be a very big advantage.
One last question. How are you quantifying impact, and are you tracking that?
So we have a metric that we've been using because the denim handbags that we're doing so far reclaim about 1 to 5 pounds of textile waste. So I think that with every product on our description, we'll tell the consumer how much textiles they are reclaiming from ending up in landfills.
That's great.
Like our last slide showed, the $40,000 investment would help us reclaim 30,000 pounds of textile waste. So
Maybe a working metric on the website too would be cool.
That'd be great.
Great. Neram, thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you.